Hey, Amie,
Yeah, Juan.
give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amie Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening on the audio portion, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. We love engaging with you. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media. On X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. Amie, ¿cómo estás? Long time no see.
You look a little bare.
I am a little bare, so here's the thing. I see that you're wearing the unicorn because this episode is going to be dedicated to the celebration of Shohei creating the 50-50 Club.
Mhm.
Now, one of the things we did on this show is we put out there, ideas for how did you, the listeners, you, the viewers, want us to celebrate if Shohei got to 50-50. And we got some suggestions. So the thing is I didn't want to start off the show with because I can't talk with this thing. So I need you to vibe as I prepare for my celebration. So can you vamp, please? Can you?
Well, this just goes
Go
to
ahead
our
and sing
level.
a song. Sing a song, Amie.
I'm not going to sing a song. I can't sing off the cuff, but this just goes to our level of organization being busy this week. Oh my gosh. I wish I had known that we were going to go masks because I would have pulled out one of my luchador masks. But, oh, look at that gold hat. Look at that
I
gold.
love gold.
I love everything gold.
So, it's not, if you're watching on YouTube, I don't think it's coming across here, but as part of my celebration for Shohei getting to 50-50, I am dressed up as Gold Ohtani. So I have my I love gold face, and then my hat that doesn't seem to be agreeing with my green screen. My hat is made out of gold as well.
Turn sideways. I noticed my unicorn horn doesn't mind. Yeah, there we go. We can see your hat for a second. Well done, sir. Well done. If this does not make Siamese vodka happy.
Can you understand me? Because I'm just going to wear this mask long enough for photo purposes. Because do you remember the Halloween masks that you used to wear as kids? Or maybe this was before your time because you're not as old as I am.
No, my mom made our costumes. So
they used to have like these plastic masks and you would wear them on Halloween and your face would just be sweating the whole time. And that's what I feel is happening right now because I'm already a sweater. I have a sweating problem. I'm a heavy sweater. But there you have it. You guys wanted
We've got Gold Ohtani.
Gold Ohtani.
Well done. I've got my unicorn horn and my new Shohei shirt from this weekend.
So we are celebrating Shohei's 50-50. So cover for me while I undress.
Oh my! I apologize, listeners. He's going to undress, and that is okay. Whew.
I'm back. Okay, that was very sweaty, very sweaty.
How hot is your face right now?
Very hot, very hot. How you feeling? Hot, hot, hot. How you feeling? Hot, hot, hot.
Oh my goodness! All
okay,
right.
Amie.
I will take off my unicorn horn. It is here in spirit.
In our last episode, we mentioned that we were going to spend a lot of time devoted to this.
To what?
To Shohei and the 50-50. I mean, that guy, that guy that the Dodgers signed for like $2 million.
$2 million.
Yeah, the afterthought.
Huh.
So, look, I'm not going to lie. There was part of me that really, I doubted. I thought for sure he would get the 50 stolen bases, but I was really worried about the home run. But then he went nuts. And look, Shohei, to end the season, which has got to be very encouraging right now, is on a hot streak. He is just tearing the cover off the ball. Some of the balls that he hits, like the home run that he hit on Saturday night, Friday night against the Rockies, that was almost at his eyes. and he hit it to left center out in the black tarp out in center field. I just, it is one of those things where I hear people say, and this is what is also amazing to me about this guy is his level of concentration. If this is Shohei focusing and concentrating and getting ready for the playoffs, then hopefully what we're about to see is something historic, and his legacy, the legend of Shohei, is just going to continue.
Who knew that we just needed to light a fire under him by letting him get to the postseason for once?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot, but let's start with the 50-50 and the fashion, the manner in which he got there. Okay, with that epic game going 6 for 6, 2 stolen bases, 3 home runs. I know you got all the figures, Amie. Bring them out.
Oh my God. I have like a page of like everybody was posting stats. So the stats for that game, like you said, Opta Stats posted something saying that 10 plus RBI in that game, 6 plus hits, 5 plus extra base hits, 3 plus home runs, 2 plus stolen bases. They said since the RBI became official in 1920, only one MLB player has ever, over the course of his entire career, so same game or not, achieved that. And only one player did all of that in one day. And that one and only person is Shohei. Like, he did that in Thursday's game. Like, how do you, like, he collected 17 bags, 6 for 6. He almost hit for the cycle if he hadn't been, caught stealing at third. Like, what? Oh, wisdom lost.
It wasn't that he was caught stealing. He got caught stretching a double into a triple.
That's right. That's right.
Look, it took a perfect
my
throw.
shorthand was a little too short in that case.
Look, it took a perfect throw to get him. But when I saw him do that, Amie, I was like, oh, he's on something where he either really wants the cycle or he really wants to do something special today. Like, I felt he was feeling himself because in that first at bat, let's not forget, in probably any other ballpark, that's a home run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, it was sad. It was like, oh, so close.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know we started talking about this in the last episode for a little bit, but right after that game, everybody was saying that it was the greatest offensive performance they had ever seen. Bob Costas said it. I know Jerry Hairston said it on the post game.
Rick Monday, it was posted that he played in over 2,000 games, broadcast over 5,000 games, and it was the single greatest game he thinks he's ever witnessed.
And I didn't realize this until recently, but you know who said hold my beer and took it even further than that was ESPN's Buster Olney. Buster Olney said that game that Shohei has had on Thursday, Buster Olney said it was the greatest day in Major League Baseball history. Now,
wow. That's a bold statement.
It is. And Amie, I got to sit there. I got to ask you the question because part of me, after hearing comment after comment about this, part of me is like, are we getting caught up in the moment? Is this us being prisoners of the moment because it just happened and we automatically are saying, well, this is the greatest offensive performance, because everybody always said because of the fact that he had 2 stolen bases. He did all of this to join 50-50, which no one had ever done before. Mm-hmm. On top of that, it got the Dodgers into the playoffs. And this is something that we haven't even talked about because all we care about is winning divisions, right? Like all we did was raise a glass, and it seemed like what the Dodgers were doing in the clubhouse was more in celebration of Shohei than celebrating the playoffs. So Amie, when you hear all these people say that this is the greatest offensive performance, do you agree with them?
I think it's great. To your point, are we being narrow-minded? I don't know. I think time will tell. I think it does speak to the fact that you'll see a lot of the stats around there. I have a bunch more stats that kind of go more towards where he's at now, the 53 home runs and the 55 stolen bases. But when they were kind of laying out even that Opta stats, the 10 plus RBI, the 6 plus hits, all of that stuff, other people were posting that and saying things along the lines of like, this player did this and this player did that, but no one player, not only has nobody done that in a full season, but he did it in one day. And I think that's where the kind of the magic of the moment is that these are great accomplishments, but if you pull any other player stats, they may have accomplished some of these things over the course of a season. He did that, but he also did it in a 3-hour period. Oh my God, more wisdom lost.
He did it during a 3-hour tour. A
3-hour tour.
Yeah, the weather started getting rough. You know,
sit right back and you'll hear it too. Okay.
That's right.
Does it, I don't know for you, but like after this whole weekend and him hitting 53 and 55, 40-40 seems so long ago. And it was only
right.
Like we were just like, oh my God, look at all these angles and the panning of the camera. Everybody caught the moment. And now it's like, that was so last week. Like it was just, wow, it feels so long ago.
You're so right, Amy, because here's the thing. We forget he joined 40-40 with a walk-off grand slam to win the game. Like this guy is such a ham. He is such a spotlight.
He said, hold my beer to himself.
Exactly. Like, all right, he did that to do 40-40. Then to join 50-50, he goes 6 for 6, hits 3 home runs, steals 2 stolen bases, right? Steals 2 bases. And we don't even have time to celebrate him for the 50-50, where people are already talking about, does he have a chance to get to 60-60? Now, I know everybody
and to that point, to your point earlier, this is his first postseason ever. In winning that game, he clinched a spot in something that he's only ever done in the WBC. He's never gotten to do it in the MLB. So like that's huge.
You know, there was part of me, and I wonder if you thought of this. So when they cut to, well, first of all, it cracked me up because when they cut to the Sportsnet LA into the clubhouse, they cut to Shohei talking in English to his teammates. And then they cut out real fast. And I wonder if it was basically the director going, Shohei speaking in English. We can't let them know he speaks English. Get out, get out, get out.
Well, Dave Roberts actually said that in a scrum this weekend, that he knows more than he lets on. But I think that just comes down to comfort. Again, I go back to the Jorge Lopez thing with the Mets of like, you know what? I'm going to err on the side of caution, guys.
No, absolutely. But I after I saw that and they just raised their glass of champagne, which I thought that's what they were going to do, because I think they did that last year when they clinched the playoff spot. They just did a champagne. They didn't really celebrate.
Because if you still have the door open to hit, to get the division, like I understand they are from that point on, they're going to celebrate everything because you don't know what's going to happen. But I think I wasn't surprised, but being that it was his first time, it was just like, I was grinning, just realizing like he gets to go. Like,
well, yeah, and that's part of the reason why I was sitting there. I thought to myself, I was like, what? There's very few people, I think, that are in that clubhouse that have never been to the playoffs. And the biggest name, Shohei, is one of them.
There's actually a couple. We're going to talk about Bonda at the end, but he's never pitched in a postseason game.
Right. And so when I'm sitting there, I was thinking about them going, what are they? And they're like, come on, we're going to party, right? We're going to celebrate the playoffs. And then they're like, welcome to the Dodgers. We don't do that here. We only celebrate if we win divisions. So that was part of the reason why I am rooting hard that the Dodgers win the division against the Show Pods, because I want to see Shohei celebrate. I want that guy to experience, like, look, you were playing in the witness protection program for like 6 or 7 years, and you never got to experience this. But this is what happens when you play for the Doyers.
And I think we come to expect that. And so we don't take into consideration like what it must feel like for those, like rookies. We're like, oh yeah, it's the rookie's first time. But like, you don't think about those players who've been around the league. I don't know if Kopech has, experienced like some of these guys. Like, I don't know if as they've been around the league, have they gotten to go to the postseason at any point?
That is a good question, but hopefully in a couple of days, they will get to go ahead and do that. They will get to celebrate.
what did you think about, I know there's a lot of video flying around, like the umpires taking extra time. Like there's a video showing like the umpire stopped to clean the plate for a little extra time and like grab some extra balls from the bat boy. And then there was a pitch clock violation and he waved it off so that Shohei could not only come around the bases, but celebrate with his team and then come out for a curtain call. And it was just like class act. Like the pitch clock doesn't need to happen in that moment. There's a video that's going around. I'll find it, and somebody posted it. It was like, did anybody notice this while it was going on? And it called out all those things that umpire did, waving off the pitch clock, so that he could have that moment. Versus like, no, we got to get back to the game. Let's keep this going. And like he got to have all of those moments because it's big for baseball. It's big for the fan base. I know it was a mixed bag of fans at the stadium in Miami, but like all of those fans there, regardless of what your team affiliation is, they witnessed history. So you saw everybody was jazzed about it. He got that curtain call. Manfred even came out and made a statement. Like it was a big moment.
Amie, can you imagine if that would have happened at Dodger Stadium?
Oh my God. People would have died. Not literally, but
I think it would have broken the stadium. I think one of the things, and it came out that Clayton Kershaw was the one that had this idea. That Friday game when they came back to Dodger Stadium, that first game since Shohei joining the 50-50 club, how they all got out of the dugout and stood outside the dugout for Shohei. I thought that was a great moment because there were a couple of people I think that were really super excited that were on the team, on the Dodgers, when he hit that home run. But then I saw some other guys that they seemed like really chill, like really, really congratulations, man. I think I would have been like that guy just screaming up and down and been like, hey, boy, dude, relax, man. Act like you've been here before. Because, Amie, I feel because of the fact that he's already at 53, 55. And look, I don't think he's going to get to 60, 60. But the fact that he keeps going, I really feel like we haven't had a chance to celebrate and let it really sink in what this dude has done, because I don't think, especially if he goes back to pitching next year, he's not going to do this again.
Well, and that's kind of what people have said, is that, the odds of it happening again are going to be, it's going to be harder to do, right? So
yeah, the way it happened, and it was just, I'm so excited because I love being able to see these kind of moments in Major League Baseball. And when people do stuff that is just unicorn stuff, that to me is very exciting. It is a reminder of why. And one of the things I do want to thank our listeners and our viewers, because when Shohei hit 50-50, it was more than one of you listeners or viewers that send me messages saying Shohei hit 3 home runs for the Prince of Darkness. So I love that all of you acknowledged that Shohei was doing this for me. So
look at the ego on you.
I'll send you the messages. I think I love it. Guys like Pablo and Art and Siamese Vodka, those were the guys who were just like, he hit 3 home runs for the Prince of Darkness. And it's just
you're like, let me go make my gold hat.
Exactly. I mean, would I have loved to have seen more than 15,000 people in that stadium? That's why, to me, if it would have happened. Who
on the Miami side is kicking themselves that they could have gone and seen history made, regardless of whose team he plays for?
Well, from people who were there, what I heard is that the majority of the fans in that stadium were Dodger fans.
100%. Yeah, you could see it from the shots. Did you see the authenticating happening in the game? Which I think it was cool for them to peel back.
I saw the base getting authenticated.
So they cut later on to, he had to go inside and change, and you even heard Joe Davis on me and my friend had to rewind it because he was like, and Shohei's naked now, because they have all of his gear in the dugout.
I knew they took the shoes and the batting gloves, but they also took his pants and his jersey.
From what I understand, they took everything. So, and then you could see the authenticator in there, like putting little stickers, and he had somebody looking over his shoulder as he's like marking everything up. Like it was a lot. Like they had it all laid out in the dugout, and he was doing that. And then you hear, Joe Davis's comment where it's like, "Oh, Joe Davis." But I mean, now I'm wondering, is he going to have to do that for every home run? Because like the farther he gets, it's still a record. So how many different uniforms is he going to have that are going in as that record continues to grow?
It's interesting that you bring up the Joe Davis thing, and let me just say this: I prefer Tim Neverrett's call on radio.
That's the one I heard first before I got to go home and rewatch the game from what I missed, and that call. Beautiful. I got shivers. Yeah, chills when he made it.
I thought Tim Neverett nailed it and did it a great job because it felt genuine to me. And look, everybody knows how great Joe Davis is, and I know this is going to come off as a slight to Joe Davis, but when you said, like I said, let's just come along and humor me right now. Let's say he does get to 60-60. What are you going to do to top that call? And that's the thing is, for me, Joe Davis's call sounded more rehearsed. Like it sounded like he knew when he got to this moment, this was what he was going to say. And that's why I thought Tim Neverrett's call was just more natural. And also, and this is not fair either, I know, it's just the comparison. I grew up my whole life listening to Vin Scully. So I'm used to Vin Scully. How would Vin Scully handle these situations? And I feel like Vin Scully he never made himself a part of those moments. He never made himself bigger than those moments. I feel Vin Scully always surrendered himself to those moments. Mm-hmm. Like I feel Vin Scully did what Tim Neverett did, was he got the information out that you needed to know, and then he got out of the way. And obviously with television, you let the visuals tell the story, but with radio, you let the audio, right? And that's why I would have loved if there were more fans, if that stadium was completely sold out, because you would have had the roar of the fans and all that stuff. But
I think the calls themselves were great. Like they both hold merit on their own, I think, because you're never going to have another Vin Scully. And, Tim will never be Vin, neither will Joe. They all have their own style. And I think all of those things, like when those pivotal moments happen for me, I may be listening on the radio or watching on the TV. I'm going to go catch it either way, the other side, because I want to hear both. Because for me, it's just living in that moment, even if that moment is a little bit delayed to hear the other call. I think just hearing it, I don't know about you. Like I heard the call, I started grinning, and then my eyes watered up a little bit. And then I got a text from my best friend, and she's like, "This isn't me with my eyes watering." And like, we weren't in the same place, but we got to share that moment. She was with me when we were at Dodger Stadium for the World Series when we won at the drive-ins. And so it was kind of like having that shared moment. And it just reminds me, like, this is what I love about baseball. We all have where were you? What was going on when it happened? You have your memory of what that moment will be. We all shared it, but we still all have our different experience. And like baseball gave us that. Like, yeah. Like, it's just, I don't know. One of the other thoughts that went through my head, and I think somebody brought this up, but like, if the rule hadn't changed for the designated hitter for the National League, would we even have Shohei on our team?
No. I mean, he would have stayed in the American League. He would have stayed in the American League because, he wants to pitch. He wants to do both. So, yeah, I as much as we want to crap on Manfredi, we give him his kudos. Now, that being said, I am still a romantic and prefer the National League way of playing.
Same.
Pitcher hitting. That's the style of baseball I grew up watching. That's what but whatever. You got to go with the times. And also, it's like exactly what you said, Amie. If we didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to get to watch this. I will say this, and I know this is blasphemy, and I reserve the right to change my mind because I can later on. But right now, the way the season is going, watching Shohei play and do the stuff that he has done has been is more exciting to me than watching the Dodgers overall play and going into the playoffs. And that's rarely been the case for me. I've always been more about the team. But with this man's individual accomplishments are so impressive and they're so amazing to watch that I found myself just being solely interested in him getting to 50-50. That and you look back, and again, I can't stress enough, Amie, how impressed I am with this man's level of concentration. Like when they interviewed him afterwards, he kept saying, he's like, I'm just glad I got it over and done with, right? He didn't want this to linger and go on. But if we look back at this guy's season and everything that he's had to deal with, going back to, and it was just breaking news today that Ipe is not going to get sentenced. He was supposed to get it sentenced in October. Now it's getting pushed to December. And that is, he had to deal with that. Not only deal with that, deal with the pressures of having a $700 million contract, coming to the Dodgers and saving the poor small market Dodgers from their poor playoff failures, being the man, dealing with all that. And then Mookie goes down, and that, to me, I go back to that, Amie. Once Mookie went down, it felt like, for those of you who have seen the great major motion picture Over the Top, it felt like what Shohei did is what Stallone does in Over the Top, when he turns his hat around and he's got his hand on backwards right before he's going to arm wrestle. When he turns his hat around, that's when you know that shit is going to go down, because he starts doing the thing with the fingers over the thumb, and he's going to take you over the top. It's going to take you over the top, and that's a shout out to the Stalloners Club. You guys know what I'm talking about, Stalloners. Shohei went over the top this year,
and they actually listed out his stolen bases. So between March and April, obviously the beginning of the season, he had 5 stolen bases. May he had 8. June he had 3. July he started stepping it up. He had 12. August he had 15, and then I had to do some math, and I was like, 12. I think that leaves 12 after 55. So
math again. I was told there would be no math.
And that could still be wrong, because I still could have gotten caught up in my head with 53, and the math may not work. But 12-ish. We'll just go ish. But I mean, he started the season with 5, 8, and 3 from March to June. And then he started getting double digits July on, and that's about when Mookie got injured and he stepped into that leadoff spot. And I know people were upset that, that was Mookie's spot. And, Mookie's always like, hey, wherever you want me, whatever gets us the win, which is what Shohei says as well. I think it's lent itself to the lineup. And there's just, I don't know if you saw the flurry of stats that were posted, but just the fact that there are so many different ones out there pertaining to everything that he's accomplishing. It blows my mind that he's able to do this. And nobody else is even in the 43-43 club, and he's already at 53 and 55.
But not only that, Amie, we've spent all this time talking. We haven't talked about the fact that he is now the record holder for most home runs in a season for the Dodgers franchise. He passed Sean Green. Sean Green had a really nice little congratulatory video that he put out. Sean Green was loving that week, going, oh my God, this is going to be the only time in my life I'm going to get compared to Shohei. But it was just and you look at it, he is now the record holder for the Dodgers in home runs. And look, I know, like I said, in my mind is telling me there's no way he's going to get to 60-60. There's no way. But
I love that you're already no way. When I'm not saying he will or he won't, I'm just leaving it open-minded. Honestly,
right,
if he made it to, he's already at 55 stolen bases. If he made it 55 and 55, at least I know everybody loves clean numbers. That would be an accomplishment, because we were at 40-40. Can he make it to 45 and 45? And that's where it's let's just, if it takes a uniform every time, let's just celebrate every accomplishment. If they have to get that authenticator out and he's just busy for the next 6 games, hey, that's what you get paid for, bro. Get him out there, get every single jersey.
But Amie, that's me convincing myself, because there is a part in the back of my brain that is sitting there going, what if he goes nuts in Colorado? And that's why
And that's where he could. I mean, if you're going to do it anywhere.
right. So like
he's like hold my beer 70 and 70.
but like I don't expect him to hit home runs against the show pods. I don't. I think he'll steal some bases against the show pods, but I just don't expect the home runs to happen. But what he does, and then like if they do wrap things up and they win the division, my question is always like, all right, obviously those games in Colorado are meaningless. You don't let Shohei play. You start wrapping everybody up in bubble wrap.
But do you not have him play in the like you don't want him to cool off before a bye?
Well, and that's what someone else had brought up to my point is like, look, Juan, if they're going to get a bye, they're going to be off for a week. So they need those at bats. So they're going to play. So that's why I'm like, what if he does go nuts? Let's say he goes into that Colorado series and he has 55 home runs. And then we've seen him do it. He can't.
He got 3 in one game.
Yeah. But
like some of these stats are unbelievable. He's the first player in MLB history to hit 5 home runs, 6 stolen bases in the span of 4 games. That's from Codify. In 15 games this season, he has 15 with a home run and a stolen base. And that's the most since 1900. That was according to Sarah Lang. So like we're going back, a century and a quarter at this point to find anybody who matched up to that. He's the only player in the MLB to ever have 6+ home runs and 7+ stolen bases in a 7-game span. So between September 16th and the 22nd, that's courtesy of Eric Steven. And he's like, here's the list. And it was Shohei. And it's like, end of list. Like he's leading in so many different categories. Like you're hearing his name surpassing Alex Rodriguez, Willie Mays, Ricky Henderson in just different stats. Ken Griffey Jr., Babe Ruth, Sammy Sosa. He's just like there's you name a stat, he's breaking it.
Yeah, it's like I said. I said this episode was going to be all Shohei all the time. We're celebrating the unicorn and the great accomplishment of 50-50. Look, when the Dodgers signed him, I was so excited. But never in my mind did I think 50-50 was a possibility at the beginning of the season.
And admittedly, I was worried about him coming off of surgery. Yep. That was my biggest concern with him signing with the Dodgers was, is he going to be able to play? And he was like, oh, Amie, hold my beer.
Yeah. There's been a lot of beer holding this year, thanks to Shohei. Before we start wrapping things up, there are some quick stories that we wanted to comment. I know we spent a lot of time talking about Shohei, but there are some stories that
it's like anti hold my beer.
they're bummers, but I do think they're stories that we should at least acknowledge. And that's the first story about what happened with CJ Abrams. Amie, you want to set that up?
Yeah, so he's the shortstop for the Nats. He was actually demoted to the minor leagues because, as you'll see on the stories and the tweets, he stayed out all night at a Chicago casino before his day game against the Cubs, and so they took steps to. There's consequences for those actions. So he was demoted, which is like the opposite, the antithesis of Shohei, who's like, I need 10 hours of sleep and a nap and, all this workout stuff. And we've got CJ Abrams out all night at a casino.
Yeah, this is a bummer of a story for me because he had a great first half. CJ Abrams had a fantastic first half. And then in the second half of the season, it is gone downhill very quickly for him. And what I am concerned about is if this is the reason why his second half is the way it is, like if he's been out there, if his priorities are not, it is a real bummer when you sit here and you see people that have talent and you see them, in the words of the great major motion picture Bronx Tale, there's no worse thing than wasted talent. And
I love that movie.
You hope that maybe this is a wake-up call to CJ Abrams. You hope that this is not hopefully it's not part of a bigger problem. Look, this is not the first time we've talked about gambling, on this show this season. And look, sports, not just baseball, but all sports have openly embraced gambling. And I remember that was part of the reason why Las Vegas would never get a team, because they were so afraid of gambling. Well, now they're thriving. They have major franchises in Las Vegas. They have the hockey team, the NHL Knights. They got the Aces over there. They got the Raiders, and now, eventually maybe the Oakland A's are going to move over there. And you got to sit there and wonder if this happens very frequently and it just hasn't come to the surface yet. We don't know it. And I really hope that this is not the beginning of the end, because this past week we just saw another reminder of it. I don't know if you saw the video that they finally released of Julio Urias.
I did. It was really hard to watch.
Yeah. And what was hard for me, Amy, was when I saw that video, I saw that there was someone else who was filming and they were closer. So they have a different angle, because from the angle that I saw, it wasn't very clear what he was doing to her when he had her up against the fence. What was clear was the swing that he took at her.
Whether it landed or not, the fact that he swung, even just what made my heart stop initially was seeing him run up on her.
Yeah.
And like as a woman who I know you don't have the same experience. I'm sure different experiences for different people, but many women, we are hyper vigilant. Everywhere we go, we have to be on the lookout just for safety. Always. Ask any woman, what do you do to stay safe? And the fact that this was her partner doing this to her, and knowing you can hear him, like it wasn't quiet. He galloped up to her, and like it just. Why?
Yeah, I mean, look, for everyone who continues to defend him still, or for people who keep asking the question, why is he not pitching in Major League Baseball? Look, Major League Baseball still hasn't made a decision on him yet. And credit to Bill Shankin and the Los Angeles Times for petitioning to have that video, because if not, we still wouldn't have seen. And it was just bad. But look, I don't know if gambling is the root of this problem with CJ Abrams, and you're going to see more and more players that unfortunately may end up losing their careers over. It's just a real bummer, and I just hope that Major League Baseballers can step in and nip this in the bud. And
I don't think it's just even that, though. Like we just talked last weekend about the pitch tipping situation where the catcher just wanted to be done with the doubleheader. It was a playoff game in their league, and he's tipping pitches. And for me, what it comes down to is like there are so many young men coming up through the minors who will work their butts off and still never get a shot at the show. Look at Michael Peterson. He's 30. He just debuted this year. He worked his tail off. There are so many guys who would die to be in these people's spots, even just where that I know the pitch tipping happened in the minor leagues, but that you're one step closer to the show. And it's like, you've got guys playing injured, Tony Gonsolin, potentially Bobby Miller, just to stay in so they don't lose their shot. And then you have other people who, whether they realize it or not, it feels like they're taking it for granted. And it's like, people would kill to be in your position, not literally, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's not everybody gets to make it up, and like to squander that opportunity. It's sad to see. And I hope, like you said, I hope he's able, not just CJ Abrams, but anybody who's in that position to kind of right the ship.
But I also think that's why it's important to talk about these incidents and not sweep them under the rug, because the more you put it out there, hopefully these younger kids see that kind of stuff and see how quickly things can go left on you. And these guys have more to lose than the rest of us do, and it's like, look, Julio can't get back into the league, and then when they finally do discipline him, who knows, at what point, how long he's going to be out of the game.
Well, and it's his second stint, like with this. So it's not like,
yeah. And I know all this time this season is going to count as time served. So I'm very curious as to how much more time they give him when they finally do come down with a decision. But these are things where you really, I guess you got to admire the ones that can keep their nose out of trouble. And and stick to it and do what you said, Amy. They take advantage of the opportunities that they're given, and they don't squander them. Another story I wanted to touch on real quick is the my friend's beloved Chicago White Sox. What do you got on the White Sox, Amy?
Yeah, so yesterday they just hit their 120th loss of the season. So they are now tied with the 1962 Mets for most losses in a season since 1900. And not only is this frustrating for the team, because there's a couple different articles out there where the team, like, you hear from players and they're like, we're still putting our heart and soul into it. We don't want to be tied to this kind of a season, but this is where we are. And we know we'll be remembered for that, but we're still trying. We're trying our best. We're showing up every day. We're working out. We're going on the field, and we're here. But the admin for the X or the Twitter account, like, at this point has just basically, I mean, at least they're defaulting to humor, but they've basically given up of like, you can go find the score on, MLB.com, or like we had less runs than they did. And like, they're making light of a really crappy situation. So you kind of got to appreciate, like, all right, guy or gal, I see what you're doing.
Yeah, I've seen those tweets coming from the White Sox account, and I wonder if the owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, how he's taking that, if he's even aware of that, or who gave them the go ahead to do it, or if that social media manager just went rogue and said, no one's paying attention anyways, so I'm just going to keep
but I
doing
mean, what they said wasn't necessarily negative. So the three that I saw were the final, because usually you'll see from a team, if you're not familiar, they'll post a final score on Twitter. Yes, you can always find it on the MLB app or ESPN, whatever, but Twitter will usually, the team will post it. So in this case, the first one was, final can be found on the MLB app. The next one was the number of runs we scored was not greater than the number of runs they scored. And then the other team scored more runs than us. So really, like, you can't find fault with that per se. They're not throwing up the actual numbers, but I mean, at least they're having fun with it. So hopefully, no, they don't get any like bad repercussions.
Yeah, we were talking about records on this episode. I'm sure those poor people in that dugout, in that clubhouse, are not happy that they're going to be the holders of that particular record. And please save yourself some time. Don't keep posting the Miguel Vargas meme. Just leave him alone. I mean, the poor guy got traded into the situation. He did what he could to try to beat the Show Pods. He hit a home run this past weekend, but he's struggling out there, and we've brought it up. The environment over there seems like it's toxic, but there is some history on the south side of Chicago this year, so it's not just all good times with Shohei. There's another side to history being
it's unfortunate. And I mean, even some of the quotes from the guys, like, you read them and it's sad. Like, one of them was, there are definitely moments where it starts to creep in, like what's going to happen today. First baseman Gavin Sheets said recently, you try to find a way to play and focus on each day and not let the record decide the game. It's hard. It's hard to be in the present in terms of that. It's hard to allow the record not to creep in and attack each game. It's part of being a professional. That was part of an MLB article on MLB.com by Scott Merkin. And like that, it sucks. Like, these guys, they did the thing that nobody could do. They made it to the show, and look at, like, this is not what you want to be remembered for.
No, and look, it's one of those things where you lose 120 games, and it's like, how can it not impact you? I mean, look at how the Dodgers looked on Sunday when they got ambushed in that first inning when the Rockies scored all those runs against Yamamoto. For the majority of that game, they looked like they had no energy. They looked like they just, all right, we're ready to move on to the next game.
Even the commentators said, like, the stadium was deflated. Like, you couldn't even feel the excitement in the stadium.
And then when Shohei hits that home run, and you see how Shohei immediately points back to the dugout, and it's just like, all it took was that jolt of of life. And this is a team that is a good team that is right now has the best record in the National League, and even they go through it. Can you imagine going into work every day and you lose? How does that not?
Well, and like, from a mathematical perspective, like how do you keep losing like that? Like, the math should be on their side where they win a couple more than that. Like, that's it's just unfortunate. And I think that just goes like to the last point. I know we mentioned Anthony Bonda in our last episode. He's one of the guys who hasn't pitched in the postseason. We had heard previously that he had a run-in with a solid object. There was an article in the LA Times that outlined a little bit more about that, and that ultimately he hit the outside of his fist against a paper towel dispenser. And the way that he hit it, it was a freak accident. It hit the weakest bone and fractured it. And so while he didn't really experience any pain, there was a lot of swelling. And so some of the quotes that he had in that article, I'll have to double check and see who wrote that one. It was Mike DiGiovanna. But at the end, he said something along the lines of, I'm a human being, I make mistakes, and this was a costly one. I'm not looking for sympathy. This was on me, and I've owned it. We all do stupid things, and I have the idea that I did this to myself, but as long as I learn from it, he can move on from it. And it just got me thinking, like, we all had our opinions about what happened in just that one specific situation. So whether it's Bonda, whether it's the White Sox, like, we all don't know the context or the bigger picture of something. But if we all kind of look inward too, like, we all make mistakes. Have you never done something stupid? Like, it just sucks that in this case, not only did he let himself down, he let the team down, but he's feeling that. And so it's just, again, a reminder that these guys are human, and they have emotions. This stuff is hard, and I can't imagine how much harder it is when we have fans writing us too that are, supposed to support us and have our back. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And so, here we go to the postseason.
Wow. I mean, that's crazy. That's a hell of a paper towel dispenser. I mean, what are they using? Brawny over there? Well, hopefully he makes it back this week and we see him, because I do think having two left-handers in the bullpen is going to be desperately needed going into the postseason. That's going to do it for this episode. Amie, any last words?
No, Sabre just had the Women in Baseball conference over the weekend, so at some point I can update y'all on that, because there was a lot of good stuff that came out of that.
All right, we'll do that on the next episode. For now, I will leave this parting shot to the Chicago White Sox and all my brethren in Chicago that are White Sox fans. Soy un perdedor. I'm a loser, baby. All right. Anyways,
I am so sorry.
For those
on
of
behalf
you,
of everybody,
and for those of you that have been listening on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. We love engaging with you. And make sure you're following us on social media, on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. She's Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. Nos despedimos con un beso. Amie, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people.